Tonight, my brothers and sisters, you're tuned to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. Now, brothers and sisters, our main subject matter this evening, Côte d'Ivoire. Are we getting the whole story? Tonight, Mwari.
You're tuned in to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio.
Although the current crisis in Côte d'Ivoire can be traced back to the elections in late November last year, it has only recently emerged in the mainstream media from the shadows of the so-called Arab Spring occurring in North Africa, in spite of the estimations of over 1,000 fatalities with around 1 million displaced. Its emergence is accompanied in the European press by a fully formed narrative. The incumbent president Laurent Gbagbo lost the presidential runoff to rival former Prime Minister Alassane Ouattara, but has refused to accept defeat and in typical strongman fashion is clinging to power. This narrative is supported by a host of international players, including the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, France, the African Union, and the United Nations, who have all insisted that Gbagbo step down. France, the former colonial power, and the UN have backed up their demands with military action aimed at neutralizing Gbagbo's troops. Armed intervention does appear to have made some headway amid reports of several defections from Gbagbo's camp. However, reports last week that he was on the verge or even had actually surrendered proved premature. Moreover, an examination of the factors involved suggests that the situation in the country is far from as clear-cut as has been generally reported. While it is true that Côte d'Ivoire's Electoral Commission declared Ouattara the winner of the runoff, there was considerable evidence of irregularities in Ouattara's northern stronghold, to the extent that political consultant and academic Gary K. Bush referred to it as a, quote, the blatant vote rigging in several northern constituencies where more people voted than were on the electoral roll, unquote. It should also be emphasized that Côte d'Ivoire's Constitutional Council, for whom the announcement of electoral outcomes is the exclusive remit, and as reported by Senegalese commentator Pierre Sané, Amnesty International Secretary General and former UNESCO Assistant Director General, it, quote, cancelled the ballot in 7 districts out of the 8 challenged on the grounds of 5 appeals introduced by candidate Laurent Gbagbo based on irregularities involving the absence of his representatives and delegates in the polling stations. In the polling stations, ballot boxes stuffing, conveyance of records of proceedings by unauthorized individuals, voting obstruction, absence of polling booths, and rigging of valid vote numbers. Based on evidence provided to support the demands, the Constitutional Council cancelled the ballots in the relevant districts and readjusted the results, thus leading to confirm Laurent Gbagbo as the winner. It has been suggested that the Constitutional Council in the thrall of Gbagbo, it has been suggested that the Constitutional Council is in the thrall of Gbagbo. However, Sané also reveals that opposition representatives dominate the Electoral Commission by 18-2. Thus, it could be argued that both sides could have reviewed the situation and even called for another poll. But it soon became clear that the international community had sided with Ouattara. ECOWAS suspended Côte d'Ivoire and threatened military force if Gbagbo didn't step down. There are yet other voices who argue that the crisis in Côte d'Ivoire is more than just about who won the election. Tom Mbakwe suggests in New African magazine on February 2011 that, quote, the real problem is not even between Gbagbo and Ouattara, but between Gbagbo and France, whose huge tentacles are still firmly planted in Côte d'Ivoire and in 13 other francophone countries in Africa, unquote. An indication of France's influence can be found in the Colonial Pact that contains a range of measures, including the establishment of the common currency and foreign exchange controlled by France, that leaves the African nations with access to only 15% of their own money for national development, and also demands that France has the first right to buy or reject any natural resources found in the land of the francophone countries. Former professor of history Laurent Gbagbo is known to be a vociferous opponent of the Colonial Pact, while former IMF economist and protege of Côte d'Ivoire's founding father Félix Houphouët-Boigny, Alassane Ouattara, has expressed no such resistance. Mbakwe continues, to Gbagbo and his supporters, our Ouattara presidency is another name for French control of Côte d'Ivoire. Indeed, it could be said that the French influence, not least military, has been given far too little coverage in the current crisis. For example, when in January 2011, French President Nicolas Sarkozy was confronted with widespread unrest in the former colony of Tunisia, he resisted calls for military intervention, declaring, quote, a colonial power, even several decades afterwards, is always unjustified in pronouncing a judgment on the internal affairs of its former colony. And you know, and everybody knows it. Yet France was quick to intervene in the West African state, rhetorically and militarily, resolute on the side of Ouattara. So, brothers and sisters, this evening, we ask the question, Côte d'Ivoire, are we getting the whole story? Is Laurent Gbagbo the latest African strongman who refuses to cede to the will of the people? Is the international community right to support Alassane Ouattara? How seriously should the allegations of vote rigging be taken? Should a presidential rerun have been considered? Should more have been given for a diplomatic approach? How effective have ECOWAS and the AU been in the crisis? What emphasis on the bypassing of the Constitutional Council in favour of the Electoral Commission? Is the election issue merely a smokescreen for a larger issue? Is a Ouattara president another name for French control of Côte d'Ivoire? Does the Colonial Pact inhibit Côte d'Ivoire's sovereignty? How did Gbagbo challenge the Colonial Pact? Is the Côte d'Ivoire crisis a precursor to intervention elsewhere? Where? The numbers to call in on, brothers and sisters, is 0208 180 2523. That's 0208 180 2523. You can also call us on 071 573 883 or email us at studio@voiceofafricaradio.com. You can text us on 07904 899 195 or Skype us on Voice of Africa Radio. Tendai Mwari.
You are tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. You are tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio.
Tendai, my brothers and sisters, you're tuned to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. And we are blessed, brothers and sisters, to have with us a brother who is doing some tremendous work with the New Africa magazine. We're blessed to have, again, Brother Baffour Ankomah. Tendai Mwari. Let me just give you a little bit of insight into this great man, Tendai Mwari. Brother Baffour Ankomah was born in Ghana and has been editor of New African, the best-selling Pan-African magazine since July 1999. His passion is Africa and its diaspora. He's been a journalist since 1980. Baffour started his career at The Pioneer, the oldest existing newspaper in Ghana, where he became editor between 1983 and 1986. He joined New Afrikan in mid-1988 as assistant editor, then rose to deputy editor in 1994 and editor in 1999. His column, Baffour's Beefs, a big hit for New Afrikan readers, has been running since 1988. Greetings and welcome, Brother Baffour.
Thank you, Tindamwari.
It's a pleasure to have you on our program again.
Yeah.
Our subject matter this evening, Côte d'Ivoire. Are we getting the whole story? Now, our summary is a little bit dated now because of recent events in Côte d'Ivoire. Would you like to give us your feedback in terms of what the current situation is in Côte d'Ivoire?
Welcome, my brother. Your summary is not dated at all. I listened to it. All the questions that you posed are quite current. What has happened today is that finally Gbagbo and his wife have been watching the pictures. It's quite amazing. And I just came back from BBC News 24, and I was telling them the same thing. The same type of treatment that they gave to Saddam Hussein is what they are trying to give to Gbagbo, undressing him live on TV, making him look like some common criminals, etc., etc. And that is the latest, but everything, the top of your show that you have enumerated, all the questions that you posed are quite current. We are not getting the whole story. I said the same thing on BBC News 24 just now, because the Western media is not interested in putting context on what is happening. And the quote that you took from Tom Mbakwe is quite current. The story in Côte d'Ivoire is not even between Ouattara and Gbagbo at all. Because if you look at the pictures, in November before the elections, two of them met and they shook hands and they were looking into their eyes and laughing and cracking jokes like brother to brother. So these two people could have sat down and ironed out their differences. But because the core issue in Côte d'Ivoire is between France and Gbagbo,
right,
the issue cannot be resolved. What has happened today is that France, using its colonial troops based in Côte d'Ivoire, has been camouflaged like UN troops. And we all know that without France, the rebel war would not have been possible way back from 2002. From 2002, France has been the one supplying, directing, guarding the rebels, even though they have painted themselves to the outside world as peacekeepers. Without them, there would not be any rebels. And you put it so well, because of the Colonial Pact that Gbagbo wants to chicken out of. He has forever been against, he and the left-wing intellectuals behind him have forever been against the Colonial Pact, which obliges the Francophone countries, 14 of them, to put 65% of their foreign exchange reserve into the French treasury. Then they add another 15% to make it 85. 65 plus 15 will give you 80%. And last year I interviewed the president of Togo, the new Faure Gnassingbé, and he too is against it. We all know that in the past, any African leader, Francophone leader, who even whispered, even against the Colonial Pact and the CFA, the common currency, the arrangement, and said that we must look at it, France will give you a nice send-off via coup d'etat. And when I discussed with the new president of Togo, and I said, are you afraid because of this? He said, oh, things have changed. But things have not changed. What has happened in Côte d'Ivoire now means that things have not changed. That is why France quickly dispatched its troops to go and remove Gbagbo. So
there's a little bit of a debate there. There are reports on the BBC that it was French troops, but we hear the UN, amongst others, are claiming that it was Ouattara's troops that actually, or the quote rebel troops that arrested Laurent Gbagbo.
Yeah, but they rode on the back of the French troops.
Mm-hmm.
The French troops had the tanks. No rebel army in Africa has tanks and helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
All these were coming from France. And even the arms that the rebels have been using of late have all been supplied by France. They've got their direction from France. And so it's only a fool who will believe that the rebels could not have defeated the Côte d'Ivoire army.
Mm. Just out of interest, my brother, because you know, just like our program, you talk it straight and make it plain. And on a number of occasions, you have to go into these institutions and speak to the likes of the BBC. What kind of response do you get?
This evening, I just came back from TV Center.
Right.
Did an interview on their program, on their news program, and
Mm-hmm.
they brought on some experts from UN and Gender Fraser again, and they were waffling. They were talking about, now we are going to get a government of national unity and all. And I said, if government of national unity was the goal, why did we need the French to go and shoot Gbagbo's presidential palace then? Why didn't we have government of national unity from scratch?
Mm-hmm.
So the BBC cannot bring itself up to tell its audiences the truth. This mighty empire of the BBC should be able to tell the truth. And I said on air, and thank God it was a live program, so they couldn't edit it up.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why do we have all these officials waffling? And we seem to have historical amnesia. We've forgotten what happened in Iraq. When Saddam Hussein was captured, we all thought that was the end of it. But how many thousands of people died after that? And I said, as an African, I fear for Côte d'Ivoire because Gbagbo has a large following, and they feel that the justice has not been done.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You mentioned nicely this rigging of the elections in the north of Côte d'Ivoire. Gbagbo's grievances have not been dealt with. First, he came and said, let's do a recount. Nobody wanted to do a recount. France said, no, we're not going to do a recount.
Mm-hmm.
Ouattara said, we're not going to do it. Why can't we do a recount? Why can't we do a recount? And so the followers of Gbagbo feel that justice has not been done. And so I fear we must have an Iraq situation on our hands in Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay. All right, Brother Baffour, we're going to go to a short break now, and then we want to hear more from you. Okay? Tenamre.
94 FM, brand new Voice of Africa, brand new 94 FM, Voice of Africa, brand new station.
You are tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio.
Tell my brothers and sisters, you're tuned to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. We're blessed to have Brother Baffour Ankomah with us this evening from New African Magazine. Our subject matter is Côte d'Ivoire. Are we getting the whole story? Brothers and sisters, we're going to be talking to Brother Baffour our program is extended, this evening. I just want to remind you, brothers and sisters, to 11 o'clock. So we're going to have a little bit more time to unravel this very, very important happening, this very, very important and tragic situation that's taking place in Côte d'Ivoire. Subject matter this evening, Côte d'Ivoire, are we getting the whole story? Okay, and Brother Baffour, we'd like to go into a little bit more into the elections that took place. There was a rerun of the election. Now, the Electoral Commission declared Ouattara the winner, but the Constitutional Council declared Gbagbo as the winner. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there. Could you help us there?
Yeah, there was a discrepancy. But the Constitution of Côte d'Ivoire is a fundamental law of the land. The Constitution says that the Constitutional Council has much power than the Electoral Commission. And we know that the Electoral Commissioner made his declaration in the Gulf Hotel. It was the U.S. ambassador and the French ambassador who went and separated him from where he was, took him to the Gulf Hotel, brought France 24, the rolling news channel of France. So they put him in front of their cameras, and he announced. So even the local media did not have access to the Electoral Commission at the time. That is against the law of Côte d'Ivoire. But as I mentioned earlier, because the fight is between Gbagbo and France, it was taken as the gospel truth. So that in itself contravened the constitution of Côte d'Ivoire.
And the other thing that concerns us is, I mean, we had ECOWAS, we had the African Union, of course we had good old President Obama. Everybody basically taking the position that Gbagbo should go. So, you know, is the international community right to support Alassane Ouattara? And, as I said, those two other institutions, ECOWAS and the African Union?
I have always maintained that it is as wrong to rig an election against an opposition leader as to rig against a sitting government. Gbagbo said, these are my grievances. I think if we are instituting democracy in Africa, we must do it according to proper rule of law. If what Gbagbo said had merit, I would have wanted ECOWAS, AU, etc., to look into the grievances of Gbagbo. And if we found at the end of the day that his grievances have no merit, then we can go and shoot him out of the place if he didn't want to go. But as we are sitting here now, none of them, neither ECOWAS, neither nor AU, not Obama or France, etc., did anything. All that they said was that Ouattara has won on the basis of the results declared by the Electoral Commission, which we now found that there was a discrepancy between that and what the Constitutional Council announced. If it is true that up north, the elections were rigged against Gbagbo, then I think we haven't allowed justice to be done. So even the AU and ECOWAS were wrong. I hear that at the last AU meeting in Addis Ababa, the president from Southern Africa were shocked when the new Nigerian president, our good man, Goodluck Jonathan, just frequently said that, but rigging elections is normal in West Africa, so we should take the results as given. And I hear Zuma opening his eyes like that, and Mugabe and all these ones from Southern Africa were beside themselves with shock. But we are now in a world where might is power. France wants its way. And let's not shy away from that fact. France cannot allow Gbagbo to take Côte d'Ivoire out of the CFA or system or the sphere of influence. Because as soon as France does that, France has no legs at all. France is feeding off the resources of these 14 Francophone countries. So France cannot allow Gbagbo to take Côte d'Ivoire out of the system. That's all.
Tendamori, Brother Baffour. I just want to go back slightly because you said that ECOWAS or AU made some statements and everybody's just run with it. But didn't ex-Prime Minister and President Thabo Mbeki come out and said there are red flags and we need to do investigations?
Exactly. And as at now, Mbeki's report has not been published. They can't publish Mbeki's report, even though I know that the AU set up a high panel of five heads of state to investigate and report. And Gbagbo did not accept their findings because he realized that they were not looking into his grievances properly.
Could you explain? Could you explain to us what Mbeki's role was in this particular situation?
Mbeki was sent there in the first few days to go and bring some sanity into the place. He went, he looked at Gbagbo's grievances and looked at the other side and said, basically, this is what somebody, I haven't seen Mbeki's report in black and white, but this is what somebody has told me, that he recommended in his report that we should look at Gbagbo's grievances. We should do at least a re-election or a recount. And none of his recommendations was taken on board.
Who appointed him?
Pardon?
Who appointed him, Thabo Mbeki?
Thabo was an AU envoy.
Right, Tenamori. So basically what you're saying is that he came to represent the AU and he did his investigations and he flagged up that there seemed to be some irregularities, yet this was totally sidelined or dismissed.
Yes, his report was dismissed because France didn't like it, and USA, as usual, is supporting France because they have their interest in Alassane Ouattara. They think he's the front man for them. So
the AU dismissed him.
AU is quite sad because if you let's go back to the last AU meeting, the Peace and Security Council meeting that decided on Côte d'Ivoire. They allowed President Sarkozy to fly all the way from Paris to come and sit in. And I've been wondering, why did they allow Sarkozy to sit in there? Because, and I hear the AU budget, 65% of the budget comes from the European Union and other donors. So AU is thinking about how to finance its budget more than finding real African issues, a real African solution to African issues in Africa. That is why they allowed Sarkozy to come and sit in that meeting to influence the decision of the Peace and Security Council. It's a shame that in this day and age, the African Union cannot even be a union for Africans because we don't have money to run our own affairs.
Tenamori, my brother, this election obviously has, drawn a lot of attention, and there's been accusations on both sides for vote rigging, human rights violation, and so forth. You said earlier that it's not about Gbagbo or Ouattara. So is this election issue merely a smokescreen for a larger issue? And if so, what do you think that is?
It is, because it is a perfect smokescreen. Because remember, Gbagbo was checkmated. France didn't want Gbagbo to ever become president. That's why on the favour, he was arrested many times. And remember, at the time, Ouattara was the prime minister. Ouattara arrested Gbagbo and put him in detention for so many times, so many months. So France didn't want Gbagbo ever to become president. Gbagbo just got in because the then president, Bédié, banned Ouattara from running in the 2002 election. 2000 election. So Gbagbo somehow became president by default. And since then, France has been trying to get Gbagbo off the seat. So when they couldn't do it, they had to bide their time. Wait till these elections came on. So when these elections came, it became the right time for France to use it as some kind of mini coup d'etat. Whatever happened, Gbagbo wasn't going to win. And lo and behold, they used the rebels up country to rig the elections for Ouattara.
Tenamori, brother, can you give us an idea of what is happening in Côte d'Ivoire in terms of what's happening to the people? Because you hear that, that the French have gone in and they're very similar to what's happening in Libya. It's a humanitarian effort and they're just taking out Gbagbo's military. But we're hearing about loss of life. What is really happening?
What's happening is that, it goes back again to the Colonial Pact and the defense agreements under that pact. France has a military base in Côte d'Ivoire forever. And so in the past, if anybody reared his head, put his head up against Fofo, they will always rely on the French troops to come in. So these French soldiers based in Côte d'Ivoire were the ones who helped the rebellion to survive. So they set themselves up as the people behind the rebellion. Yet they turned themselves into the blue helmets, so-called UN peacekeepers, sitting in the middle between the Gbagbo forces down south and the rebellion up there. So this time, remember, as soon as they started attacking Libya with this so-called no-fly zone and they were bombing, it was Goodluck Jonathan who issued a statement saying that ECOWAS, the UN should give ECOWAS the power to go and use military force to take off Gbagbo. So the French used this statement issued by the Nigerian president to then use his forces to start attacking Gbagbo's troops from, is it 3 or 4 weeks ago? So what is actually happening is that the French troops are attacking and the rebels have become the front, but the real people doing the attacking has been the French troops.
Can you, I mean, you've broken down for us, my brother, the AU and its role or lack of it. Could you just inform the listeners who is ECOWAS? What is it? What's its role in this whole situation and its role in general?
The role of ECOWAS has been more or less using statements because ECOWAS has not been able to master any forces. At first, they thought they were going to use the Ghanaians and Nigerian troops to form the nucleus of the ECOWAS forces.
Could you just explain for us what ECOWAS is? ECOWAS
is the economic community of West African states, made up of 15 members in West Africa. And it's supposed to be an economic community, but it takes on a lot more military duties. In the conflict in Liberia and Sierra Leone, it was the ECOWAS so-called peacekeepers. But in Liberia, they weren't peacekeepers. They were part and parcel. They became a warring faction fighting against the legitimate government of Charles Taylor. In Sierra Leone, we also saw the ECOWAS intervention force. So this time in Côte d'Ivoire, they were not going to constitute themselves into the normal, they used to call them ECOMOG. Nigeria just wanted to go in with Nigerian troops, Ghanaian troops, and some others. But thankfully, Ghana decided that this time we are not going to fight anyone in Côte d'Ivoire. So when Ghana checking out, Nigeria alone could not muster its forces and go in. They had to ride on the back of the UN troops that already were there, and there were some Ghanaians and Nigerians, etc. But the UN troops by themselves could not have attacked Gbagbo without the French forces taking the lead.
Okay, Tendai More. Sisters and brothers, this is Baffour Ankomah, who is sharing this evening with us. Baffour Ankomah is the editor of New African magazine, the best-selling Pan-African magazine in the, well, not say the UK, but around the world. Sisters and brothers, the lines are now open. The number to call is 0208 180 2523 or 07961 573 883. You can email studio@voiceofafricaradio.com. You can text us on the same number 07961 573 883. This evening, if you could text us on the same number that you're calling in on, which is 07961 573 883 or 0208 180 2523. The discussion this evening, Côte d'Ivoire, are we getting the whole story? Tendai Mwari.
You are tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. Well, now on 07961 573 883 or 0208 180 2523.
Tonight, my brothers and sisters, you're tuned to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio. Our subject matter this evening, Côte d'Ivoire, are we getting the whole story? And we have with us this evening, breaking it down for us, brothers and sisters. And, you know, we're getting the real story now from Brother Baffour Ankomah, the editor of New African magazine. Okay, Brother Baffour, we've heard reports that over 1,000 African people have been killed, and we've heard 1 million people displaced. We've heard of people going to some families running over to the border, going to Liberia, and different other parts of West Africa. what reports have you heard? Can you verify these reports?
Yeah, from the ground, our correspondents in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have reported that refugees have crossed the borders. Most of them first went to Liberia. The ones in the western side of Cote d'Ivoire, which will be eastern side, will normally go across the border to Ghana. And remember, the Akan people of Ghana are the same Akans in Cote d'Ivoire. The Akans dominate Ghana and dominate Cote d'Ivoire. So it's like brothers and sisters crossing the border to come and take refuge in Ghana. And thankfully, the Ghanaian government has opened some camps to welcome them. So yes, it's true. We have had refugees going across the borders, but we've not been able to verify these reports about serious human rights abuses and the killings, because now we know for sure that some of the killings have been done by the so-called, they are calling them Republican forces,
okay,
which gives the impression that we have some monarchy way back in Abidjan run by Gbagbo, who became Republican and that's what is being reported on the wires and other agencies. So we have the rebels killing as they were coming, and the rebels who are being supervised by the French troops are killing people coming into Abidjan, and some of the killings have also been done by Gbagbo's militia. So both are guilty, but yet, like this tonight, when I was on BBC News 24, they were talking about taking Gbagbo to The Hague to try him. So it means that Ouattara, whose forces are the rebels, he's not going to be tried. We should be careful. We are going to get some Iraq situation on our hands in Cote d'Ivoire.
Well, there is a clear understanding that both, well, in terms of these atrocities, that they're rebel forces that are actually spearheaded by Ouattara, who is also committing atrocities as well, we hear.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. The atrocities have been committed by both sides, yet already they are talking about taking Ouattara to the Hague to try him. And mentioning the Hague brings to mind our foreign secretary here, William Hague, tonight. Even him
mm-hmm.
gave a news conference and was appealing to the so-called Republican forces in Cote d'Ivoire to give Gbagbo the respect he needs as a former president, because he's saying, don't let us treat him like we did to Saddam Hussein. That is what they just did this afternoon when they captured him. Yeah, so they are talking about taking him to The Hague and trying him there, but as you are saying, the atrocities have been committed by both sides.
Tindamwari, recently a report came out by a government minister, as well as some footage that has been going around on the internet, and this is one of the reasons, to my understanding, that France used as the reason why they needed to go into Cote d'Ivoire. There was a video footage of a woman lying in a pool of blood. Now, what transpired? She's supposed to be one of 10 women who were slaughtered by Gbagbo's military men, and what transpired is that it was all fake, because the woman didn't realize that they were still filming, and she got up, and somebody's got the full recording and they've posted it, and they were told, oh, no, we haven't finished filming, go and lie back down, and it transpired that the blood was pig's blood or something like that, and you then have to question if there are these humanitarian crises taking place and these atrocities, why would you need to fake one?
Well, these people live on propaganda. Modern war is fought, both the soft war and the hot war. The soft war uses propaganda to get your way in. I'm not surprised. They've been perfecting their arts since Saddam. And just imagine how they went into Iraq with all that kind of lies. And France just wanted to finish the business, because we can't allow Gbagbo to sit there. It's very dangerous for France. What Gbagbo did was quite dangerous for France. If they had allowed him to take Côte d'Ivoire out of the system, the others will say, okay, if Gbagbo can do it, we can do it as well in Togo, in Senegal, in all these other places. So France has to fake something to give them the grounds to go and do what they have done. I'm not surprised at all.
Okay, to know more. Brothers and sisters, the lines are now open. The number to call is 0208-180-2523 or 07961-573-883. You can also text on the same mobile number, 07961-573-883, or you can Skype Voice of Africa Radio. This evening's show is Côte d'Ivoire. Are we getting the whole story? And we are talking to Baffour Ankomah, the editor of New African magazine. I've got a text here, and it says, Europe and America are preparing to clear their tremendous deceit through any means necessary. Who will be next in to suffer at the hands of those evil forces of colonial past? It sickens me to the pit of my stomach to witness the illegal intrusion of foreign troops onto foreign soil to dictate demands solely to protect their economic interests. France and the UN are a law unto themselves. The question is, who is auditing the practices of the organization? Surely they should be tried in the International Court of Human Rights. I believe the French pact is illegal, as was clearly not set up on a level playing field. And that's from Sister Magina.
Okay, Tenamore. Brother Baffour, can you give us a little bit more information about Alassane Ouattara? Because some people are saying that he is, once he's in control, basically France are in total control. Do you concur with that?
Yeah, Ouattara has a very interesting history. We interviewed one of the former officials of Gbagbo in New York. And he said when they were younger people going to study in USA, he was on the same plane with Ouattara. Ouattara at the time had a scholarship from Upper Volta, which is now Burkina Faso. And he went there as a student from Burkina Faso, or Upper Volta. And when they were studying in the US, the Ivorians would group together, do their things, do their political things as a unit from Côte d'Ivoire, Ivorians. And Ouattara was always with the people from Upper Volta, also doing their counter things. Somehow, he became an Ivorian after his days at the World Bank, IMF or something. And he became Prime Minister under Fufo Boigny. But he reminds me all the time, Africa. Let's go back to 1960. Moïse Tshombe in DR Congo, who was used against Lumumba.
Right.
It flows through. In my own country, Ghana, we have Dr. Buzia, who was used against Kwame Nkrumah.
Right.
You come all the time. You come to Zimbabwe. You have Morgan Tsvangirai being used against the African people, headed by President Mugabe. Ouattara is the one in Côte d'Ivoire that France and USA are using against the African cause. They know that he is their own man. And now they have had a victory with Gbagbo in their clutches. The end has come, but we don't know, because this Ivorian army, the people, the militia guys who are behind Gbagbo, think that injustice has been done them. And we don't know. In this day and age, look at what has happened in even Nigeria, where these people are using bombings just to get their way through. I fear for Côte d'Ivoire. Côte d'Ivoire is a very forested area along the border with Ghana on the west side, on the east side, and on the west side with Liberia. Going north is a bit savannah. These people can easily merge into this forest, and it is going to be messy. We have to find some way of pacifying the followers of Gbagbo to calm down. If they should go the way the Nigerian rebels are doing in Abuja and these other places,
they're feeling
we are in serious trouble in Côte d'Ivoire.
They're feeling particularly aggrieved, though, and it almost speaks to orchestration, because although there are people like William Hague that are saying to calm things down, the fact is what Gbagbo's people are feeling aggrieved, and and the evidence is quite clearly there as well, and it sounds from what I'm hearing, Brother Baffour, that you do fear for the future of Côte d'Ivoire.
I fear because Gbagbo, even in the second round of the elections, he got 46% versus Ouattara's so-called 54%. So he still has a large following. And, if you allow injustice to fester, we get some of the things, and I said this way back in 2001, what happened in the USA. And I said that if you allow injustice to fester, we get some of these things we have seen in New York and Washington. This was 2 weeks after the events, and I was invited to go and speak at some right-wing think tank in Berlin. And that day, the officials from the German foreign ministry, two of them walked out of my speech. Right. Later, the German chancellor, the one before Angela Merkel, had to stand up against George Bush and co. and then Germany against the invasion of Iraq. So I was proof right there. We are allowing injustice to fester in Côte d'Ivoire, and it's my fear. If people find themselves mighty powers doing injustice against them, they can do anything. And we have the whole national army in Côte d'Ivoire. We have the militia forces in Côte d'Ivoire. There are some clever people in these guys. They are watching what has happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. They know what is going on in Nigeria. We must find some way to pacify them, else we will be in serious trouble in Côte d'Ivoire.
Brother Baffour, I know you're aware that it is the... Anyway, I'm gonna get back to you with that question. We have a caller on the line, Sister Imani. Tenda Amara, Sister Imani, you're live at Voice of Africa Radio. What's your contribution this evening?
Tenda Amara. First of all, I'd like to give thanks to your guest, Brother Baffour Ankomah. So much information to take in so far, and all very relevant and very necessary. I just really wanted to comment on France, really. What I've been hearing, a lot of the information I've been hearing today, I've been hearing for the first time, and I think it needs to be clarified for our people that when these countries are so-called the colonial countries, they never actually left Africa. They may have left physically in some cases, but the power that they have over us is immense, to the point where they can cause this amount of chaos and confusion, and just, decide that they're going to manufacture a war. I heard Sister Kai talking about the filming of a lady, supposedly dead from human rights violation. They should get up and walk. And, things like that. If it wasn't real, it would be comical to see how these people actually treat us as Africans. I've heard it said before, and I have to agree, that Europeans, they like to deny Africans of our humanity. We're not people. We're like pieces on a chessboard. So when they need resources, or when they need this or oil or that, they can just come in and cause as much confusion and push people this way and push people that way. I think a lot of our people need to wake up and understand this. We really do need to come together as a people. We need to clamp down on the amount of influence that these countries have on Africa. We need to stand up for ourselves. As Brother Leader was saying earlier on, we need to unite, because we're making it a little bit too easy for these people to come in and do their foolishness and play these games, and they turn around and say that we're savages and that we kill each other and that our leaders are dictators, etc., etc. So again, I just want to give thanks for that information tonight, and I just basically want our people to wake up, and I hope that this and other issues happening in Africa right now will wake our people up and show us that we really need to, stop messing about now and take charge of our future as Africans. Give thanks. Tenda Amara,
give thanks, Sister Imani. We will be going for a short break, but before we do, brothers and sisters, remember the numbers to call in on is 0208-180-2523, 07961-573-883. You can email us at studio@voiceofafricaradio.com. or you can text us on 07 904 899 195. Tendamre.
Call now on 07961 573 883 or 0208 180 2523. You are tuned into Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Voice of Africa Radio.
Tendamore, yes, sisters and brothers, this is Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on www.voiceofafricaradio.com 94 FM. Côte d'Ivoire, are we getting the whole story? We're speaking to Brother Baffour Ankomah, editor of New African magazine. We, for Sister Imani who spoke earlier, there is a meeting taking place at the end of this month, the National Black People's Day of Action meeting, which is towards the building of an African People's Parliament. You're talking about our people uniting. That is one way that we can do that. The venue will be at the Queen Mother's Moore School at the Methodist Church Hall, Nelson's Row, Southwest 1. Okay. Tendai Mwali. This text from Sister P. Sister P, when will the glare of liberation truly hit Africans between the eyes so that we have no option to reclaim our African mind, land and spirit? We need to come out of this coma now. Can you imagine AU being financed by France? Haiti is suffering today for winning the Haitian revolution. Don't let the sacrifice of Dessalines, Bookman Doty be in vain. Look what happened to Toussaint. Tenamori. The venue is taking place. The Black People's Day of Action, towards an African National Parliament. I'll give you the details again. It's 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Queen Mother Moore School, Clapham Methodist Church Hall, Nelson Row, London, Southwest 4. Tendamwari.
Okay, Tendamwari, brothers and sisters. We've got Brother Tom Tom on the line. Tendamwari, Brother Tom Tom, welcome to Africa Speak with Alkebu-Lan. What's your contribution this evening?
Oh, I was just listening to Brother
Baffour
Ankomah. Yeah, and it's actually scary. Looking at the sub-region, as he mentioned, we have Côte d'Ivoire now. Liberia is just trying to come out of this turbulence.
We're losing you, my brother. I don't know if you can move your phone, adjust your phone so we can hear you better. Keep speaking though.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you better now. Continue, my brother, you were saying.
Yeah. And my worry is the fact that Ghana, which has received all these praises, has been stable so far. We're having an election in 2012, next year. And my worry is looking at the pattern which is going on, the way elections are being conducted, that are people's interests are actually at the forefront, and people are being supported and financed by people with special interests in special areas. It's something that we need to be worried about, Ghana's election.
Okay.
And if that doesn't go according to plan,
what are the consequences?
What are the consequences?
Okay, my brother.
I don't even want to start thinking about it.
Okay, well, go ahead.
But then I just want us to be very, very clear in our minds. I'm surprised this report, what brother is saying, is now coming out. Why has it taken so long for people to get this information?
You mean the information that Brother Baffour is enlightening us with?
Yeah. We at New African have been running stories about the Colonial Pact. I think 4 years ago, we did a big issue on it. But the mainstream media are not interested in putting the issue in context. The real issue is the Colonial Pact, which the African countries now want to get out of, but France will not allow them.
Yeah.
Right. I think you have to subscribe to the New African, my brother, if you want.
To know is, will these special people with special interests definitely be interested in Ghana elections, and will they be expecting Ghanaians to actually sit down and then be given somebody that they feel is not right for them? We've already lost Osagyefo, and it's taken over 40 years to actually realize and to know that we actually miss what we should have kept.
Okay.
And I think we shouldn't allow this thing to happen to us again. That this 2012 election should be, we have to come out with a very clear eyes to make sure we're actually voting for something that we really want.
Okay, Brother Tom. We got to move it on. We got to move it on, my brother. We get the essence. We got a number of callers on the line. We're gonna bring in Brother Ajay. Right. We're gonna bring in Brother Ajay now, calling from Southeast London. Tendamore, Brother Ajay. Okay. Welcome to Africa Speaks.
Yeah, Tendamore, Brother Mwale.
Go ahead, Brother Ajay. What's your contribution this evening?
Listen. First of all, I would like to thank you guys for the wonderful job that you're doing, by highlighting, showcasing what's going on in Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, which is, by the way, my home country.
Mm-hmm.
And I would therefore like to use your program to call upon the Ivorian and to say that today is the end of an era. Gbagbo being arrested shouldn't be seen as something that will bring the chaos in the Ivory Coast. But we should learn from the mistakes that have been made from different political leaders, from different political parties that brought us in the situation where we have to come to political deadlock in the Ivory Coast. Since 2002, Ivory Coast has gone through a difficult political path, a turmoil, and we wished that the 2010 elections should bring stability and joy in the heart of the Ivorian. But unfortunately, it didn't happen, and we had to go through 4 more months of suffering, killing, and destruction of people's life and people's belongings. So I think we need to learn from what happened, evaluate it, assess it, and then trying to plan for a better future for the country, for the Ivory Coast.
Okay, Brother Ajay. Stay on the line, Brother Ajay. We're gonna go on to Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame is calling from Ghana. Tendamore, welcome, Brother Kwame. Brother Kwame? Okay, let's go to Sister Nehanda from Northwest London. Tendamore, Sister Nehanda. Tendamore, my sister. What's your contribution this evening?
So I'd like to say congratulations to Voice Africa. Alkebu-Lan Speaks to Voice Africa for bringing another very important show. I just wanted to say quickly that I believe that this is the reason why we do need to have a Black People's Parliament to be able to address these issues nationally within the Black community. And my question was, I don't know if this has been asked already, but has there been any involvement or any responses from surrounding countries within this situation? What part do they play, or what stance are they taking?
Right.
Tendamore.
Give thanks and praise to Sister Nehanda. Tendamore. We have Brother Kwame from Ghana. Tendamore, Brother Kwame.
Yeah, greetings, family.
Greetings, my brother. Brother Kwame, we're going to have to keep it nice and tight, my brother. We know you have so much to say, but keep it as concise as you can. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that people that this thing is part of the global war.
Yeah,
your
line is.
And I think people. Yeah, is that okay?
Your line is breaking up, Brother Kwame. Okay, we.
Can you hear me?
You're kind of cutting in and cutting out, I'm afraid. Maybe if you can redial.
Oh, is that okay?
I'm afraid not, my brother. I'm afraid not. Okay, let's get Brother Baffour to Brother Baffour. You want to respond to some of those points that were raised? We'll keep trying, Brother Kwame.
Yes, I can. Yeah, let me take the last one first. What has been the role of neighboring countries?
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to look at Burkina Faso and President Compaoré, the role that he has played in all the conflicts in West Africa. In Liberia, he was very much involved. In Sierra Leone, he was very much involved. In Côte d'Ivoire, his country has been the linchpin where the French have been flying the weapons for the rebels, and he's so untouchable. Never sticks to him. Nothing sticks to him. If you remember, when the Americans wanted Charles Taylor could not have succeeded in Liberia without the support Compaoré and Burkina Faso gave him. But he will never go to the ICC. Never. So the role played by Burkina Faso in Côte d'Ivoire is very vital. They have been the vehicle that the French have used to get to the rebels. That's number one. Number two, our brother mentioned the election in Ghana 2012. It's very vital. I covered the 2000. It was that close. If President Kufuor had been seeking a re-election, we definitely would have had some violence. But it happened that President Kufuor was finishing his 2 terms, so interest there, the guy who stood on President Kufuor's ticket, party's ticket, lost by that. It was that close, but his supporters were not as determined to get him in power as the NDC, which is President Mills. If the MPP supporters had been that, if they had been worse, I've lost words to describe it. It was that close. We were that close to violence. So 2012 already, Akufo-Addo, who is now running again on the ticket of the MPP, has been talking about what something in Ghana will call all die be die, meaning that his supporters should not sit there and allow the NDC people to do as they did in 2008. Yes, we have interested parties in Africa. Our elections, all the time, the Western countries come along with money. And I keep writing in my column that, yes, in Africa, we go and put the X's in front of the names of our politicians. Presumably, we who are electing our people. The people have already been selected by the founders, the Western nations who give them money for their campaigns. So, brother, the caution that is put, we have to be careful. 2012, it might be very serious in Ghana. We have to watch it. Perhaps, like Brother Ajay is saying, we may have to learn lessons from what has happened in Côte d'Ivoire. It is too close for Ghana not to take any lessons at all. We can't go that way, and hopefully, perhaps, December 2012 might be the decider. If we are able to have it peaceful in Ghana, then we thank our stars and our God. But it's going to be dire.
Right.
I come from Ghana, and I know what I'm talking about.
Okay. We got brother Kweku on the line. Tendai Brother Kweku, welcome to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan.
Tendai
my brother.
I first want to rise up Brother Baffour Ankomah, and also yourselves for putting together a powerful and informative show.